Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blissful Literating. After analyzing the tense and aspect of verbs, the simple present and the simple past tenses, and as well as the present and past continuous and perfect tenses, now we come to the perfect continuous aspects of the present and past tenses. All the previous lectures are available in the language and grammar playlist. If you find these lectures helpful, then do subscribe to the channel and like the videos. And right now, before we begin today's discussion, let us revise the basic concepts first, that is the tense and the aspects of verbs. So what are verbs? Those of you who have been attending to the lectures regularly, you must remember that verbs indicate action. Main verbs, auxiliary verbs, their combinations, they all represent the time of the action and also how the action is perceived. So basically, whatever we do, the action done by us, our acts, can represent three definite times. Something we are doing right now in the present, something we have done already in the past, or something we may do in the future. Apart from this, these verbs also tell us whether some action is habitual or a one-time matter or being repeated over and over again. So depending on these two items, these two things that a verb can indicate, we have come up with two definite terms. One is tense and the other is aspect. Now let's first talk about tense. Tense represents the time of the action. So if we take this line as a timeline, we have two different markers on this line. The marker at the beginning, it represents the past, the time which we have already left behind. And the marker in the middle, that represents the present time, the time we are living in right now. And the arrow moves towards indefinitely to something unknown. That movement, that direction is called the future time, towards which we all are moving gradually. It will do us good to revise. Remember that only two forms, that is the present and past, have their own unique verb forms. The future makes use of modal auxiliaries and they too have their own past and present forms. So basically we are talking about two definite unique form of the verbs, the present and the past. There are other forms. Obviously, we have already learned about some such forms in our previous lectures. But again, let me remind you, we get those forms by adding something, changing something in the root, present or past form of the verb. Such changes are called inflections. Inflections are very important as they help us indicate any and all the tenses with their various aspects. Now let us talk about aspects. What are aspects? Aspect deals with the perspective of the viewer regarding the action. So basically there is one action. Now how do you perceive the action or how do I perceive the action or anybody at that matter? Do we perceive it as complete or do we think the action is incomplete, still going on? Or maybe it is something which is repeating over and over again, something done out of habit. So all these things, they come under the aspect category. So the action that is completed is called perfect in aspect. Action that is incomplete is called imperfect in aspect. Action that is going on is continuous or progressive in aspect. Action that is repeated is called iterative aspect. Action that happens regularly is of habitual aspect. Now, if you notice closely, you see we don't have a perfect continuous or perfect progressive aspect in here. There is a perfect aspect, there is also a continuous aspect, but both of these aspects come separately. What we actually do, we combine these two aspects, taking elements from both and combine them together to create, to form something new. And that new aspect is called perfect progressive or perfect continuous aspect. Now let us talk about this new aspect, the perfect progressive aspect. The two aspects of progressive and perfect may come together and can intersect with the three time zones of present, past, and future to indicate their individual perfect progressive forms. Since they combine both the aspects, they indicate some ongoing action till some point in time. As expected, Such expressions often come with a time expression indicating duration connected by for or since. So basically, present, past, future, they all have their own unique individual perfect continuous form. And these perfect continuous forms, they take the continuous element of the ongoingness and the perfect element of some particular time till some point in time. Now, the key word here is often. The time expressions, they are often there, but maybe there can be some sentence without the time expression. It is in such cases understood. And if there be any time expression, they are usually connected by for or since. Now let us talk about the formula before we move forward. Let us just talk about the formula of how to frame positive, negative, or interrogative sentences in the perfect progressive. First, let us discuss the present perfect progressive. We use subject, then have or has, then been, and then the verb with ing inflection, and then object. Those of you who do remember, you must remember that the verb ing inflection is the present participle form of the main root verb. So in the present perfect progressive, we use have verb in the present form and then been and then the present participle form of the main verb. We use has only in, if you remember, third person singular number, which is any pronoun that is he, she, it, only these three, and any singular individual name, whether be it common or whether be it proper. Now, if we are to make a negative sentence, we will use not just before been. The not will actually come with the have verb, has not or have not. Now, if we are to make an interrogative sentence, we will bring the have verb at the beginning of the sentence even before the subject. And then it will come as usual. First have verb, then subject, then been, then verb ing, that is the present participle form of the verb, and then object. If we are to make it a negative interrogative sentence, we can place the not either before the subject or after the subject, wherever we want. But remember, it will always be exactly after or exactly before and only in one position. Never we will use it twice in the single sentence. Next we come to the past perfect progressive. Again, the same thing. Subject, then have verb in the past tense, and then been along with it the present participle form of the verb, that is verb with its ing inflection and object. And if we are to make a negative thing, then we use not. We make it had not been. Since the past form is a singular one, has and have, both we have in present, but in past we have only had. So in all the structure we will use only had, subject plus had. If we are to make it an interrogative sentence, the have verb, that is the had one, will go at the beginning, even before the subject. Then again been, then verb, ing, and then object. If we are to make it a negative question, then we will use not just after the subject or perhaps just before the subject, but only in one position. Now let us talk about the present perfect progressive tense in detail. We use this tense to indicate some action that commenced in the past and is still going on in the present. So the continuous aspect, it started long back, continues, and it is continuing even now. For example, it has been raining since morning or for the last 30 minutes. I have been working on a new project. They have been tinkering with the website settings. You see, the first sentence, it uses a time expression of duration introduced by since or for. However, that can be omitted as we can see in the next two examples. So, what is happening? The rains, they have started long back in the morning and still going on right now. Right now, this may be evening or even night, but it has been raining since morning. A continuous process, and it continued in a definite time in the past. Or maybe it has started 30 minutes back, but again that too in the past, a definite time expression. We may omit the time expression as we have done in the next two sentences, but the sense of ongoing action that began at some point in the past, however, remains unchanged. That sense, again I am telling you, is there. Even though there is no time expression, we can understand that the work on the project or tinkering with the website settings, they are all matters of past. That is, they started in the past and they are continuing even now. Now, one very important thing, the difference between the perfect and the perfect progressive aspects. Because you see, we are combining these two elements. So there are a lot of similarities. However, there are also some differences. Very subtle, but there are some. The two aspects in present tense are often interchangeable. However, the perfect progressive implies a sense of continuance in the present more than the perfect aspect. For example, I have been living here for 15 years and consider the other one, I have lived here for 15 years. When we say I have been living here for 15 years, we definitely understand that 15 years back we came here and even now we are living there. But in the second example, it may be so that we have left this place just now, very recently. I have lived here. Maybe I don't live there anymore. I have just come back to show the place around. Let's consider a few more sentences. He has been working for us and he has worked for us. Now, the first sentence here suggests that the work relationship continues still in the present. He has been working. He worked with us before and even now he is working with us. Maybe intermittently, maybe not on a regular basis, but the relationship, working relationship is still there. On the other hand, he has worked for us definitely puts the thing in the past. Definitely. He doesn't work with us anymore, but it is still relevant because I am referring this person to you. Why? Because he has worked for us and I know that he is dependable. So you see, the relevancy is there, but the continuance that is not there. Now let us talk about some more examples. For example, how long has she been learning French? And how long has she learned French? So has she learned French? Maybe she has stopped learning. But has she been learning French? She's still learning it. She started. Both sentences imply the sense that this action began in the past. But in the perfect continuous, the learning continues even now. And has she learned? It may continue or it may have just finished, just stopped. Next, he has been writing novels. He has written novels. Now, this is very interesting. You see, the plural, novels in plural. What this suggests? The plural object adds a subtle change in meaning. It indicates that the person is not writing the novel exactly right now. He has been writing novels, maybe not right now, poring over the pages, burning midnight oil. But he is in the process. He is writing, stopping, again writing. He is a writer. He has been writing novels. But the second sentence indicates that he has stopped writing altogether. He has written. He wrote novels. Okay, did. But he has written. He doesn't write anymore. Clear? Okay, let's now move on to the past perfect progressive. Past perfect progressive is also known as the past perfect continuous and is the past equivalent of present perfect continuous. The action indicated by the perfect progressive is often related to another action or point of time in the past, which is included as a subordinate clause in the simple past tense, usually introduced by when. So basically, past perfect progressive is equivalent of the present perfect progressive, present perfect continuous, whichever you want to call it. This will become even more clear if we take a look at some examples. For example, we have when Mr. Chetri joined this school in 2009, Mr. Chaudhry had already been teaching here for 15 years. So you see, we have a definite point of time in the past. That is the time when Mr. Chetri joined the school in 2009. One definite point. And at that point of time, Mr. Chaudhry had already been, here comes the past perfect continuous tense, had already been teaching here for 15 years. I had been walking for half an hour when it suddenly started to rain. Again, the point of time in the past is the moment when it started to rain. But as it started to rain, I had already been walking for half an hour. It started long back, even before the time when the rain started. She had been painting the fence when the dog scratched it. So the action of painting the fence happened even long back when this particular point of time, the point where the dog scratched it, took place. The jury had been considering its verdict for several hours when the judge effectively ordered them to find Jones guilty. So again, the exact point of time is the moment when the jury was asked by the judge to find Jones guilty. But their deliberation, their consideration of its verdict was going on even many hours before that. Now let us talk about the conjugation of these tenses. Let us first talk about the present perfect progressive. As we all know by now that there are three persons, first, second and third person, each having two definite numbers, that is singular and plural. In the present, in singular first person we say I have been playing, while in plural I is replaced by we. The second person remains the same because you, the pronoun, doesn't change in singular or in plural. So you have been playing remains you have been playing. And if you recall, as I said, the third person singular takes the has. So he, she, it has been playing, or you can take any name. Ram, Sham, Jodu, Jones has been playing, which in plural becomes again they have been playing. Now, if we talk about the past perfect progressive, again the same pattern is repeated. The first person, second person, third person, singular, plural. But you see the verb, the main verb have is changed to past tense. The been and the verb ing, that is the present participle form, is still there. The only change is in the have or has. It has been changed into its root past form, that is had. I had been playing becomes we had been playing. You had been playing remains you had been playing. He, she, it had been playing becomes they had been playing. So basically, here our discussion on these perfect continuous tenses end. So I hope you have understood the present and past perfect continuous tenses. If there be a question, please leave a remark. Thank you.